Futures canola contracts were slightly lower on Friday morning. The November canola contract is down $2.30 at $483.40 per ton. The January contract is down $2 at $489.80 per ton. A tornado touched down in western Manitoba yesterday evening, but there were no reports of extensive damage or injuries. Relative strength in the Canadian dollar kept pressure on canola prices this morning. The dollar was around 75.5 US cents. Slight losses in Chicago soy oil also kept pressure on canola. Nearby soy oil was down by about 1/10 of a cent in early morning trade. The Chicago soy complex was weaker on Friday morning, despite strong export data. Last week, export sales for soybeans totaled 570,000 tons, which was a 65% increase from the previous week. Exports to China totaled over 420,000 tons. Soybean cake and meal sales totaled 182,000 tons, which was a significant increase from the week prior. Soybean oil sales totaled 2,500 tons, which was a marketing year low. The September soybean contract is down 1 cent at $8.95 per bushel. September soy oil is down by about 1/10 of a cent at 31.2 US cents per pound. September soy meal is up 60 cents at $292 per hundredweight. Corn futures were steady this morning. Corn export sales totaled 377,000 tons last week, which was a notable increase from the week prior. Increases in purchases were primarily made by South Korea, Japan, and China. The September contract is unchanged from yesterday's close at $3.25 per bushel. Wheat futures are stronger today. Last week, wheat export sales totaled just under 368,000 tons, which was down by about 40% from the previous week. One private company has cut their estimate for wheat crops in the UK and EU. The British wheat crop is now expected to total 23 million tons, and the EU wheat crop at 128 million tons. Iraq is sending 13,000 tons of wheat to Lebanon following the explosion that killed 172 people and injured 6,000. Chicago September is up 2.5 cents at $4.94 per bushel. Kansas City September wheat is up 1.5 cents at $4.19. And Minneapolis spring wheat is up 4.5 cents at $4.96 per bushel. That's a look at the ICE futures and the Chicago markets for Friday morning, August 14th. For Markets Farm in Winnipeg, I'm Marlo Glass.
There are no such things as small chores on your farm, so you need equipment that works as hard as you do, especially during harvest season. That's where New Holland and Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John come in. During New Holland Harvest Days, get terrific deals on equipment to help you work more productively. Save with 0% financing and cashback offers on select tractors, hay tools, and harvesting equipment. Stop by Butler Farm Equipment in Fort St. John today for details. But hurry, Harvest Days ends September 30th, 2020.
The opinions expressed during this show do not represent those of this station. If you've missed any of this show, you can follow the podcast at Energeticcity.ca. Now, an in-depth look at the news and information shaping our community. This is Moose Talks with your host, Doug Craig, on Moose FM.
Good morning to you. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we'll be joined by local author Helen Knott. She's going to tell us about the Because You Can Single Parents Writer Prize that she's created. Now the prize money has ballooned thanks to other authors, and of course about her offer to mentor a few writers as part of the prize. It's wonderful. Can't wait to talk about it. Again, that's coming up in about 10 minutes. To start, though, the BC government's back-to-school plan was released a few weeks ago. We had Stephen Petrucci, the superintendent of School District 60, on last week to talk about it. Since then, they have pushed back the start date for school to September 10th, and we wanted to gauge the reaction of local teachers and how they're preparing. So now we're joined by Michele Wiebe, the president of the Peace River North Teachers Association. Good morning, Michele. Welcome to Moose Talks.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So I thought we'd start with this. How surprising was the initial announcement to teachers? Obviously, they knew, you guys knew it was going to come at some point that they would announce what the plan was. Was there parts of the plan that were surprising to you initially when it first came out?
So in the spring, when the stages were set out by the ministry, Stage 2 was to have kindergarten to grade 5, 5 days a week at 100%, and grade 6, 7, 5 days a week at 100%, and grades 8 to 12, 2 days at 40%. But when the announcement came out on July 29th from the Ministry of Education, everything was changed. And so now we're in stage 2, which means that elementary and middle schools, they actually don't have grades there anymore. It's elementary, middle at, everybody's at 100%, but they've changed things to cohorts or learning groups. And that was the big change that, it caught everybody off guard.
I see. Okay. Can you gauge how much more work cohorts will be for teachers that, again, was unexpected, that they weren't maybe planning for in this regard?
So elementary schools are really set up for cohorts. It's we look at Murray and Ann Roberts Young and other elementary schools in the district, and really to have cohorts and learning groups is not an issue. I have to say that it will be more of a challenge for secondary schools across the province, especially large secondary schools in the Lower Mainland and probably in Okanagan. So that's where the big planning will be. I have to say, as a cohort or learning group for elementary, when I was teaching, and I always think about how would this affect me as a teacher when I was in the classroom? How do you implement this? And a cohort for elementary, middle is 60 people, and that includes teachers and EAs within that cohort. So a classroom could actually be a cohort, or when I taught grade 6, and maybe the grade 5, 6 teacher and I could be a cohort, as long as we were under, the maximum would be 60 people.
Okay, so would you say then for elementary and secondary school teachers, this is like, okay, well, we've sort of dealt with this before. This is sort of how we run things already. The additional workload will be in, I guess, the sanitizing and that sort of thing, not necessarily in how the classroom is structured and run.
What the challenge is going to be is around, so I think the model for cohorts or learning groups is for contact tracing.
Yeah.
So it's a health model. It's not really an education model, even though we do have groupings in elementary schools. And I think that is the biggest reason why they threw that in. The provincial health officer put that in. And so what it means is that within that cohort, not necessarily do students have to be physically distanced. They don't want students touching each other. And if there are other people coming into the class to even visit, such as even the principal or the learning assistant teacher or the chair, they would, because they're not part of that cohort, they would have to wear a mask potentially in order to work with those students. The teacher librarian, all of those interact with students.
I see. Okay. I guess my next question would be in regards to, I don't know how much contact you've had with teachers, because, it is summertime, but people are starting to prepare to come back to school. What kind of reaction have you heard from your fellow teachers about this, in the north? Because things are a little different here. Until recently, we hadn't had a case in a while. That has changed in the last week or so, but it's not affecting us, COVID, so far in the north the same way it is in, say, Vancouver, where most of the population of the province happens to be in. What are you hearing from teachers, your kind of fellow coworkers, in this regard, in reaction to the plan and how the government has rolled this out?
Well, I have been working since the announcement, pretty much, and health and safety is their main concern. So I receive emails, I get text messages, Facebook messages from teachers. So I think their personal health and safety, as well as their students and families. And I have to say that I really need to commend the community of Fort St. John and area for being very vigilant in how careful they have been with their own contact with other people, keeping the bubble small, keeping your contacts small. And we can be thankful for that. Teachers are worried when students come back. We don't know where they've been. And so how are we going to ensure that kids coming back are not bringing something into the classroom? So we do have procedures in place. WorkSafe BC has protocols. The school district needs to follow them. We will be vigilant. The local will be working with the district in making sure all of the health and safety plans and procedures are in place and utilized and done. That's our job.
Mm-hmm. Now,
keep everybody safe.
Absolutely. Now, it seems like in response to perhaps some messaging from teachers from the BCTF, the government did decide that they're going to delay the start of the school year, I suppose, as districts choose, to September 10th, when originally it was going to start on the 8th, to give teachers a couple days to kind of prepare for this. Are teachers happy with that around here? Have you heard? Is that a good thing? Did it go far enough, do you think?
Oh, that's a really good point. To be honest, to have the 2 days, to have September 8th and 9th, just to work on safety procedures, protocols, to some in-servicing around that for teachers and staff. And it's unprecedented. It's never happened before. So to have that is really great. Has it gone far enough? That's, for myself, I was thinking maybe a week for sure, because that way, if parents came home September 1st, and then they would, be very cautious for the next 2 weeks, make sure there are no, presumptuous cases, or, if anybody gets sick, maybe. I just think that we need to be very vigilant in our area. We need to continue, and we need to be really smart about all of this. So time will tell if this is, I guess. That's the best way I can answer that.
Okay. And I want to go back to how teachers are feeling one more time, and you've touched on this already. Have you heard from teachers, in general, given that we've been through kind of a almost shutdown in the education system, where the delivery model changed to being, at home, to then a hybrid kind of in June? Have you heard from teachers on what happens if, say, there's a second wave? What happens if we have to go through this again? How will that look? Or are they maybe feeling more confident because they've been through it already? What's the sense you're getting from your colleagues on that?
So teachers work really hard in March. It's during spring break when we went fully online, April, May. Then they worked really hard to do in school and then remote teaching in June. We have amazing teachers in our district, in the province, who really stepped up and had to learn a lot in a short time. And I believe that there should be more, training. If we were to have another wave of this and everything was shut down again, we would be in a good situation to go remote again. But honestly, it really took its toll on teachers.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm really grateful that you took the time to talk to us about this today. It's certainly an interesting time to be in, and I'm hoping everything goes well once the school year rolls out. Hopefully we'll keep in contact, and we'll have you on again to talk about how things are going, okay?
That'd be great. Even, before school starts or whatever, that'd be super. Let you know what's happening.
Absolutely. All right, Michele, thanks for joining us. That's Michele Wiebe, the president of the Peace River North Teachers Association. We'll be right back to chat with Helen Knott right after this on Moose Talks.
Tim Hortons Bacon Breakfast Sandwich is now even better. Crispier, naturally hickory smoked bacon. Fluffy, toasty English muffin. Tastier than ever. Tim's Tastier Bacon Breakfast Sandwich. Taste the difference today at participating Canadian restaurants.
Hi, I'm Kate with Tenacious Detail. At Tenacious Detail, we're taking the risk of COVID-19 seriously. We are offering free ozone treatments and sanitization wipe downs upon request to help reduce the risk and protect our customers. We are IDA certified and we are experienced in removing biohazards. Ask us about our FineLab ceramic coatings. They create a high gloss, more durable surface, which also makes washing a breeze. Check us out on Facebook. Tenacious Detail is located at 8225 100th Ave or call 250-263-9335.
Did you know that Petron Communications supplies high-speed, unlimited internet to over half of all energy producers and camps in northeastern BC? It's called our Petronet system. And if you have a camp, plant, or facility that could benefit from better internet, give us a call. We have almost 20 tower sites servicing between Dawson Creek and the Yukon border. Call now to see if we can reach your location. Petron, where communication is their specialty.
One thing is for sure, riggers get filthy, and Soap City Cleaning is in the business of making filth disappear. We provide industrial rags and wipes to oil field companies in the North Peace region, along with cleaning of coveralls, gloves, and any other oil field attire. Plus, with our pickup and delivery service, we have the most efficient turnaround times for even the busiest rigs. One thing we've never said is, that's too filthy. No job is too big or small at Soap City Cleaning. See for yourself on 95th Ave or online at soapcitycleaning@gmail.com.
Watch this show live on Facebook or download the podcast at Energeticcity.ca.
Welcome back to Moose Talks. I'm Dub Craig. We're now going to chat with Helen Knott, a local author and creator of the Because You Can Single Parents Writer Prize. Started small and has ballooned quite a bit. And I thought it was a great thing to talk about the prize itself and also kind of the story of the prize coming about. Helen, thank you so much for coming back to talk to us on Moose Talks.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So why don't you start by telling us a bit about the prize for people who don't know. What is it? What are you offering as a prize for people who submit their work to you?
Yeah, so it started out with like $150 prize, just a small prize, and then some mentoring for writers, for single parent writers. And it just kind of snowballed. Like we had people anonymously, local people, but then also across Canada, donate to the prize. And it grew, I believe it's at $2,125, but there's two prizes at that amount.
Wow.
And then we have two smaller awards at $300 each. So the cash value is like close to $5,000. And we've also had some writers donate some of their time as well. So for example, Alicia Elliott, who wrote A Mind Spread Out on the Ground, which is a nationally best-selling book, said that she would help with editing for somebody who was working on a larger manuscript.
That's wonderful. And can you give us an idea of the timeline of this? Because I sort of caught it happening on Twitter. While it was happening, I saw you posted about this prize. Then, like the next day, you're like, "Okay, it's going to be more money." And then the next day, it was more. You kept kind of re-uploading the image with X's through what the previous amount was with the new amount. It sort of happened really fast, didn't it?
It did. I think overnight, within 24 hours, it grew into like $1,500.
Wow.
And then somebody wanted to match it or to split it into two prizes. And then both prizes started growing. And when they hit $2,000 each, that's when we created I say we, but it's like just me, created the smaller award of $300 each, and then started adding back onto the original prize. So it happened really fast. I think we hit those numbers within the matter of like 4 or 5 days. We had writers like Cherie Demeline and Daryl McLeod contribute to that, but also people who came from single parent homes who said, you know, my mom was a writer, or she would have really benefited from something like this, and I want to be able to give back to help a single parent who has those creative dreams.
And that was, as I understand it, sort of the onus for why you wanted to start this, because you are a single parent. You wrote your book, In My Own Mocassins, while raising your child as a single parent. This was sort of your way of perhaps providing an opportunity that you didn't have in the same way, right? Why don't you tell us a bit about that story?
Yeah, so I can remember when I applied for the Banff Writers. It was an emerging writers program. It was a residence program, and I lied. because it said that you needed a laptop with all of these system requirements. And I didn't even have a laptop. So I applied, I got in, and then I was like, okay, I need a laptop. I don't have the ability right now to get that. And there were a few people who pitched in to buy me that laptop. And that's how I started writing my book. And I always promised myself, once I get, down the road and once I have my first book published, that I would give back. And so this was that little spark of giving something back, and it grew beyond my imagination. So I'm really excited.
Okay. We've talked about the cash prize a lot, but I want to focus on the mentorship for a moment here. Why don't you tell us, everyone kind of knows what mentorship is, but for us non-writers, what does that look like? Someone wins this prize, they win sort of some mentorship from you, as I understand it. What does that look like? What does that entail exactly for someone who's trying to improve their writing and maybe get published?
It would look like me reading over pieces, if they already have a manuscript. If they don't have a manuscript, then talking about structure and how they can get to that point, but then also giving tips just in regards to publishing and building a name and what does that look like, because that whole process can be pretty mystifying. And I've had some pretty amazing people kind of step in and informally mentor me as well. So taking those pieces and what I've learned from them and being able to give back in this sense. So that's what it'll look like.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask you this. You also mentioned this already. You've always wanted to give back. Was this sort of how you envisioned always being able to do it? Or you just sort of thought, I want to give back. I don't know how that's going to look yet. And then this sort of idea of maybe offering a bit of cash and some mentorship came later.
I think I knew I always wanted to do something with, initially it was just like a laptop, because that's what I was given. And then I was like, okay, this is how I'll do it. And then it just kind of grew in that way and added in the mentorship piece. But also looking for people, or I have been prior to this, to mentorship in general, not just within writing. And because I'm 32 now, I'm kind of taking on this like auntie role. I find where I'm like, okay, how I relate to people is changing a little bit. And how do I also lift other people up or provide that little bit of mentorship or guidance, or what does that look like? Even just giving some time and some good words to people.
Do you know how many submissions you have so far, if any? The deadline, I don't have it in front of me, but it's coming up in a bit here. Do you have lots of people submitting work because of the way that the money grew, but also the kind of word of mouth, the sharing on social media of this prize grew as well?
I still have like under 100 submissions, but they started trickling in really fast because CBC also did a story, and after that, I got submissions from across Canada.
Wow.
And I think the deadline, I know the deadline is on the 22nd at midnight. So I know as a writer myself, usually within those last 3 or 4 days, you get a rush of submissions.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens over the course of this next week.
Yeah, and I think you said on the website to sort of protect yourself, you're like, I don't know how many submissions there will be, so I'm aiming to name the prize winners on this day. However, if it's way more than that, I'll give myself some extra time.
Yeah, because I'm the sole reader right now. I did have another writer volunteer as a reader if I need her. So yes, hopefully by the end of the month. It was like a week later, but maybe the beginning of September for sure.
All right, someone listening or watching right now, tell us, we're a single parent, we want to write something, or maybe we have something written already that's appropriate. What do we need to do? What's sort of the ins and outs of this prize? What do we have to do to get submitted for it?
So if you go to it's a website called www.reclaimthewarrior.com. It outlines the submission there, but I'm not looking for anything specific in terms of genre. Like it's open to fiction or nonfiction or fantasy or poetry. Like we've received picture books as well.
Wow.
And every in between. So it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody's story.
Okay.
Or looking at creative nonfiction. So I wanted to open it up because a lot of times with literary submissions, there's a lot of rules, and even in terms of formatting. So there's not really anything in regards to formatting because that can be a little bit daunting for people. So it's just open, under 2,000 words. Whatever you want to submit, you can submit, and it'll be accepted.
I just think this is wonderful, Helen. So I'm hoping, and while it will be a lot of work for you, I'm sure you're going to get way more than 100 submissions once this comes up on the August 22nd. So again, reclaimthewarrior.ca gives you instructions of how to submit there. Helen, I really appreciate you taking some time to do this, and we'll have you back to talk about who won and why you chose them and that sort of thing after it's all said and done, okay?
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Helen Knott, the author and creator of the Because You Can Single Parents Writer Prize. We'll be right back to wrap things up right here on Moose Talks after this.
Support your favorite local shops and restaurants with the Moose Market at moosefm.ca and get it delivered right to your door. Your vehicle went through a lot this summer. Treat your vehicle to a detailing package. Get $100 off your next service at Tenacious Detail for only $50. Shop local without leaving your own couch with the Moose Market at moosefm.ca.
The City of Fort St. John and Napit Industries would like to advise the public that 100th Street will be closed at 96th Avenue until October 1st. Detour routes are in place. Please follow posted signage and the direction of traffic control personnel at all times when you're in the area. 100th Street will be closed between 95th Avenue and 97th Avenue until October 1st. All businesses will remain open and accessible at all times. The City of Fort St. John and Napit Industries thank you for your patience while we continue to improve our city.
If you're looking for hassle-free internet services, call the Peace Region Internet Society today. With coverage throughout most of the Peace, PRIS can get you connected quickly without the hassle of contracts or bundles. Visit PRIS.ca or call 1-800-768-3311 for more information.
Think you deserve a free sub from Quiznos? Then download the Quiznos Toasty Points app. Scan the barcode on the receipt and get a free small sub with any purchase. The Quiznos Toasty Points app. Download it today. It doesn't get better tasting than Quiznos, beside Walmart.
Our community first. This is Moose Talks with Dub Craig on Moose FM.
Our thanks to, I'm reading the wrong sheet here. Our thanks to our guests, Michele Wiebe and Helen Knott, for joining us today on this show. You can, of course, keep up to date on all your local back-to-school news and local news in general over at Energeticcity.ca. And again, if you want to find out more information or perhaps submit some work to Helen for the Because You Can Single Parents Writers Prize, reclaimthewarrior.ca is the website for that. Well, that does it for another episode of Moose Talks. Our thanks to Adam Rayburn, the studio producer. I'm Dub Craig. See you next Friday.
Join us next Friday at 10 a.m. for another episode of Moose Talks, a weekly talk show about Fort St. John and the North Peace.
Energetic Country. Energetic Country. 100.1 Moose FM.